Hey there! I was contacted by PREMAD. I don't know if it's PREMAD or PREMAD, so PREMAD sounds a bit weird to me, so I'm going to say PREMAD. PREMAD has launched a fountain pen with a, as per their description, patented nib that writes both ways. So you can use it in one orientation, you can turn it upside down. In one orientation it's a fine nib, and if you turn it upside down it becomes a broader nib. It's a Kickstarter project that is live right now. You can get the pen in black and silver. This is clearly the black model. I am not 100% sure. I couldn't find it online what body material this is. I have the feeling it's something like aluminum. It's quite light, and that's pretty much all there's to it. So a kind thank you to PREMAD for sending me this pen. Let's go over the parts of the pen. Let's see how it writes, and I'll tell you what I like and not like so much about this pen. Let's get started. Okay, let's have a look at the PREMAD pen. It comes in a quite attractive and pretty box, which slides open, and then you have this this sort of cardboard insert, which I don't actually think does anything. I think that just is there to keep everything in place. Right, designed by PREMAD in Taiwan. That is really neat. And then in there would of course be the pen, right, in its little bed. That's all. There is nothing else to the box. And then we have the pen. So I'll zoom in a bit. I'll show you this pen right next to a Lamy Safari, and what you'll notice immediately is that it is a thinner pen. It's a little skinnier, but it's about the same size, or length I should say, as a Safari. So there is that. Is this blood? No. Okay, then we can continue safely. You never know. Let's cover the parts of this pen, right? So before we do that, the real trick in this pen is what PREMAD describes as a patented nib that writes thinly when you hold it in the normal position, and if you flip it upside down, it writes a thicker line. The Kickstarter, the lowest sort of tier you can enter is $70. As I understand it, the MSRP in the pen will be $110. That's US. You can get them in black and silver, and you can actually pick your nib. I think fine, medium, and broad were the options. So having said that, let's go over the pen. This finial is quite nice. It's a bit futuristic looking, and I kind of like that. Then we have this clip. The clip is very functional and spring-loaded, which I've always enjoyed. Works very well. Again, very nice, very, I would say, futuristic cutout. Looks really neat. I like that pattern. Then we have this. Now you may think this is the barrel, but in reality, I'll show you that in a second. That is all cap. This is actually barrel, and this little knob that doesn't do anything. So when you uncap this, here, pay attention to this. Look what's going to happen. You keep pulling and it keeps getting bigger. The pen is as big as the entire cap is, which I found a very interesting design choice. And that's not a negative, I'm just saying I found that a very interesting design choice. Now this cap has one incredibly cool feature, and that I really like. It has a flat facet with the PREMAD logo on there, right? And it's flat, so if you have the pen capped, you put it on your desk. Of course, now it rolls the other way, but once it's there, it will not roll off your desk. I'm sorry for shaking the camera, I'm trying to make this roll, but it won't roll off your desk. It's a very nice, wide, flat facet, and I think that's really cool. Okay, so you uncap the pen. You could use the pen unposted if you like to do that. The pen is simple. It's a barrel. It's a section that is flush with the barrel, and the pen comes with a converter, so you can immediately use bottled ink, which is quite nice. Good seam there. You do feel a bit of a ridge at the bottom here. It's not 100% flush. You may be able to see it, but there is that. Now, if you don't like that, if you say this is too skinny, then you can slide this thing, the cap, all the way over there, and there's a little magnet. So the pen is actually held in place once it clicks, and it did there. Yeah, it's held in place. It will not fall out. And the other way, even though the cap is relatively heavy because it's bigger, it will not come off, which I thought was very nice. And then you have a somewhat girthier pen. So a very interesting, again, design choice to do this. But it works in my mind. It's not something I've ever seen before, such a large slide on, slide off cap, but again, it works. Okay, so section, as I said, simple, has a little lip there, and then you have the number 5 Schmidt nib, which has been modified. Now, the astute among you will notice that there is quite a gap between the feed and the nib here, and that is an issue. That will definitely lead to issues because this hampers ink flow, because capillary action is hampered, and as a result this pen will run dry as you write with it, which is indeed my experience. Now, you never know, that could be just a simple fluke on this pen, because clearly they have someone modify these nibs, but that shouldn't be a thing, right? They should not be a thing. So we have that. I'm going to grab some paper and I'll show you how the pen writes. I have to use this notepad because I ran out of my little cute notebook for the reviews. Okay, so bear in mind, I'm reaching around a tripod, so forgive me. This is the pen writing in its thin stroke, normal fountain pen orientation, this happens to be the fine nib. It is steel, and ink, I am almost certain I put in Waterman something blue black. So the pen writes right now. I have found it to, after extensive writing, to run dry. As I said, that gap between the nib and feed will do that. But you do see this is a fine nib, right? Do a bit of fast writing. I don't know if you heard that, but I got caught in the paper. The nib is definitely very feedbacky in the fine writing mode. Now, as to its wetness in that mode, yeah, not a gusher, but pretty nice. Line variation, well, there actually is a little bit, but the interesting thing, of course, is that whole upside down writing, so we need to look at that. So if I now flip the nib upside down, you see that it does indeed write wider. Right? Especially compared with this. So here you have the fine mode, and here you have the, let's call it the medium, because I don't really think that would be a full broad, the medium mode. What you also see is that there's a skip here, and there's a skip here, and that has been my experience with writing with this pen in this mode. It works alright. But you can see it really is prone to skipping. And I fear that, again, given that gap between the nib and the feed, yeah, there simply isn't really good conduction. So maybe if I really push down on this, so that I force the feed against the nib, it's a little better, but I still find that very dry. So I don't know. My experience with Waterman inks is very good. I don't think this is an excessively dry ink. So that is a bit of an issue, or quite an issue actually. What else do I have? Well, yeah, there's the upside down writing I usually do, but clearly here that would not be a fair comparison, because this nib is designed to be not finer when upside down, but actually broader. And as you can see, it does do that. It does deliver that difference in line variation. So this is, I'm going to call that normal, and then this is reverse. I actually have no idea why I put that between quotes, but normal. And that's pretty much all there's to it. So I think we have a lot to talk about, and I think we we need to do that right now. So, and by the way, that magnet also works this way. So when capped, the pen will not accidentally slip out either. That's pretty sweet. Let's chat, people. Okay, what do I like, what do I not like about the pre-made pen? Well, there definitely are things to like. The flat-faceted cap works really well in keeping this stable on a desk, which I really don't want to underestimate. I think that is a very simple solution to kind of an old problem of pens rolling, and it works. It works very well. I like the clip with that spring-loaded mechanism. I like the magnetic closure that keeps the pen in place. At least I think it's magnetic, but now that I think about it, no, I feel like there is an attraction going on there, because of course there is that lip both at the section and at the end here, but no, I really think this gets pulled into place. So I'm going with a magnet. I like that. The whole selling point of this pen is of course that two-sided nib, right? Or the is that the right way to put it? Like the nib that writes in two ways. The PREMAD company does say that it's a patented thing. I'm sure it is. Realistically, pretty much any nibmeister worth his or her salt in the world can set you up with a nib like that. They can make a nib write one way, the normal orientation, and another way when it's upside down. So, is it unique? I don't think so. I don't think that is a unique product, and I think that companies have experimented with that for quite a while. I think even Schaefer has done that for quite a while, nibs that write different ways, upside down and downside up. My issue, I think, overall is twofold. One is that, and this is the most minor issue, but it is an issue, having used this pen for a period of time and having carried it around a bit, I already notice a lot of damage. So it is scratching like crazy, so this finish is definitely scratch and damage prone. I personally kind of like that, because I think that adds a bit of character to your pen, but I'm sure there are people who would not like that. So be aware that especially with this black finish, that will happen. And I have not thrown this around. This has just been in a pen case, it's been in a bag, not being hit by all sorts of other things, but in a little pens, like a pen, what do you call that, pen loop in a bag. And you can see that there definitely is damage to that finish. But of course the big deal is the nib. The nib is what sets this pen apart. I'm going to put this as kindly but as honestly as I can. I'm not sure the nib is there yet. And I'm happy everything is patented and all that, but I have a few issues. That gap between nib and feed is an issue. Now I only get one of these, so I don't know if each of these models has this. This could just be an anomaly. A gap between the nib and feed is not a good thing. That hampers capillary action, and your nib will run dry as you write at some point. That is pretty much inevitable. In the fine mode, so the normal writing mode, with the nib up and the feed down, the writing is scratchy. There is a lot of feedback. Yes, you get a fine line, but it is sharp to the point where the nib can actually cut into the paper, which does become an issue. To be honest, even upside down, so nib down and feed up, I find the nib a bit scratchy as well. Not as scratchy as the other way around, but there definitely is a lot of feedback. What I will say is, you get the claim, or you, what do you call that? You receive what you pay for, if that is what you want. You get a nib that writes finely feed down and writes wider feed up, and that really does work. But then again, a lot of fountain pens, not all, but a lot of fountain pens without any modifications allow you to write a thinner line if you just put the feed up. So, although this is very nice, $70 lowest tier Kickstarter, I think it was 110 MSRP, that is US, I think. No, actually that could have been Canadian, because that was Kickstarter. I think I opened the Kickstarter page from into Canadian currency. I'm not sure about that price. Not if the pen performs the way it does now, scratches this easily, and comes with a feed and nib that are not really properly aligned. If that feed issue is just an issue for this pen, then we need to talk about quality control, because I don't think this should really have left the factory or the company with such a gap, because it is definitely a noticeable gap. I can slide a piece of paper between this really easily, between nib and feed, and that really shouldn't be the case. So having said that, I almost feel like this is a bit of a beta version, and that we're not 100% there yet. Having said that, the project is fully backed, so these pens will be shipped soon. If you get one or got one, I would love to hear what your experience with the pen has been, because that will be very helpful to other people who may try to be making the decision of buy one or not buy one. Okay, I hope this was useful. Of course, I thank PREMAD for sending me this pen, and I'll gladly see you later. Bye bye.